Hello students, today we are meeting for yet another session on micro teaching skills, and today we are trying to cover skill of questioning. Now as you can see, the heading is teaching skill of fluency of questioning. So what does this fluency basically mean? When we are talking about the term fluency, we are trying to explain by this word meaningful questions per unit of time. Now when I am saying per unit of time, I am trying to explain that my questions has to be well understood by the students, and how can those questions be very well understood? Then we need to focus on further three elements. Let us see what are they. First is structure, second is process, and the third is product. Let us understand that more elaborately. If we have to understand these three processes, but we need to first understand how do we frame questions. When we frame question, let us cover the first component in it, grammatical correctness. When I am talking about grammatical correctness, I am trying to indicate that the question when the teacher trainee frames shouldn't have any inbuilt defect. There has to be a very clear question, very grammatically correct, structure oriented question, so that it is well understood by the student. If suppose I take as an example this particular question, when did the cricket match or cricket game started? Now when I'm talking about cricket game started, this kind of questions which are structure wise having certain defect, it wastes a lot of time and the student is confused, doesn't understand what is the answer that I should give. Whereas if we see the exactly opposite, when did the cricket game start? Now this is a clear question. So basically the question that a teacher trainee plans has to be in accordance with the relevance of the topic, and it has to be very clear for the student to understand, and then only the student can answer it successfully. Another problem that a teacher trainee faces as a component is conciseness. That when I'm talking concise, I'm talking about the length of the question. Now if I include in my questions, does anyone know, can anyone tell me, things like this in the beginning of the question becomes little difficult for the student to understand. Does anyone know when did the Satyagraha movement actually begun? Rather it should be more concise, meaning short, which year did Satyagraha movement start? Now this kind of questions are very easily understood by the student. Another component is relevance. Now if I am teaching Holi, I can ask topics related or questions related to Holi, but even from previous learning I can ask questions on the relevance factor, like when do we celebrate Holi. Now if I include in that who was Narsingha, then that becomes little irrelevant because I didn't teach that and I'm asking that. Another thing is specific part of the question, which is yet another component. Question has to be specific and targeting on certain words, single answers. Those kind of questions are very well understood by the students, like who discovered India. Apart from that, if I add a vague and a very elaborate boundary around it, like tell me something about the discovery, that becomes really vast as a topic. Student doesn't know where to end and where to start. So I'm talking about process, if you have understood. So there are certain desirable components that we would cover here. Now when we are talking about the questioning to whole class, I have to include for certain instructions in my questions. My speed has to be moderate, like how many days are there in a week, Charu? Now that is a specific question to be asked to a specific student. My note, the way I am very clear in my writing. Similarly, whom I am asking to has to be very clear, precise. So pleasant tone and very friendly mannerism in which you should approach questioning. Gestures have to be very pleasant. If I have a very stiff face, no smile, very stiff gestures, it would not increase curiosity from students' point of view. Apart from that, which appropriate area in the question you should emphasize, that is also to be understood. Now method of questioning is yet another thing. Suppose there are certain questions which your student you have asked and they have not answered. Now that talks about the undesirable element. That also the teacher trainee should know how to convert into desirable ones. Now many times when questions answer don't come, meaning your question is repeated many times and it has wasted a lot of time and the student is not understanding, so something has distracted student, and too many distraction doesn't bring the focus to the topic or the lesson plan. Many times the students are also not at the par of that understanding that you have asked question. Another thing, if my speed is very fast, then the student will not understand. If I am very slow, yet another component, the student will not understand. My voice has to be appropriate level, so that the student can understand. It shouldn't be slow, it shouldn't be very feeble. It has to be well understood, then only my proper responses would come. That was it, and I think so you liked this particular session and there was something learning from my end. Let us meet in the next video lesson. Till then, thank you so much. Stay blessed.